we've got today. Just
general knowledge time.
And the MP, you can ask any questions you like. I don't mind. Just don't ask me to answer them.
You have to give it away, so I can tell if it's mine.
Let's see, good to see you.
Welcome to St Mary's and to the end of the Comfort and Joy campaign for this year. Those of you who've been involved in this event before will know that it's normally involved with much community carol singing, much liveliness and much enjoyment. Unfortunately, this year we're unable to sing carols, but hopefully we'll be able to mark the end of this campaign with joy and with celebration. And we're very grateful to the members of the various charities that we've supported who are with us today, as well as the Lord Mayor, Stephen Morgan, our MP, and Councillor Steve Pitt, the Deputy Leader of the Council, as well as Mark from BAE Systems, who have been one of our major donors. We're going to begin, though, by hearing three versions of the meaning of Christmas from three of the agencies that we support. And so first we're going to hear from the Roberts Centre.
Hello, I'm a circular support worker at the Roberts Centre, and on behalf of all the staff and the service users, I just want to say a big thank you for all the kind donations. They really do make such a big difference to families across the city. I just want to share a poem from a mum that stayed in our temporary accommodation. I was so lost and insecure, trapped in a world with no open door. I felt alone and was afraid. Then the Roberts Centre came to my aid. They were there to lend a hand, to guide, support and understand. They came to visit almost every day just to make sure I was okay. They were here in my time of need to give me guidance so I can succeed. Without their help, I would hit rock bottom, been another statistic society had forgotten. But now I have more confidence, learning skills to cope. I really have to say thank you for giving me new hope. So although my place is temporary, I know I will never be alone, because you will be there with me whilst I'm waiting for my home. And when it comes for me to fly the nest, I will never forget you, because you are the best. I will always be grateful for all you have done. Your service really is second to none.
Thank you very much. And we're now going to hear from two saints.
Hello everyone, and thanks for having us here yet again this year. We're really proud to be part of this campaign every year. This year is slightly different. We've been asked to reflect on the meaning of Christmas. In itself seems quite a simple thing to do, but actually when I really thought about it, I went to the expert, my 4-year-old daughter, and I said, what's Christmas? What does Christmas mean? She's just taken part in her first nativity show, so she knew all about the baby Jesus. She knew that she was the angel. She knew exactly what all of that meant in her world of a 4-year-old. But in that, she also said, but we can't do this, Mummy, and we can't do that because of COVID. Corona doesn't let us do that this year. So it was really poignant to me to actually think Christmas isn't Christmas as we know it generally. This year is a little bit different. So after consulting a child's view and then going into Santa and why it doesn't snow every year and why things aren't the way they are on the Christmas cards, I thought about the things that generally people do think about at Christmas. So we think about things, sharing time together, meaningful time, eating, drinking, having warmth, having family time, sharing, giving, receiving. All the things that Christmas would mean to us, I then thought about our client groups that lots of us here support. And like any other year, our client groups may not have that. They may not have their families. They may not have the means to be able to provide a small present for a child, their child that perhaps they don't see as often as they could. And then thinking around that and kind of obviously what this means to us, we didn't think, to be honest, this year may go ahead with this campaign. People have lost their jobs. We've had a really difficult year. However, people have, and we've been really surprised and really grateful for the donations, etc., that we've had for our charities that really make a massive difference to the clients that we work with and that we serve, and try to give them a little bit of that normality that we all love at Christmas. So when we are part of this, we generally use the vouchers, etc., that we have, so that people have that gift of choice and they can make choices with that to bring them into a world that they are included, they can feel that warmth, they can express that feeling and to learn from that feeling of giving as well as from receiving. So when we try to look at Christmas in itself and what it generally means, this year I'm sure you'll all agree 2020 is different altogether. And somebody once said to me recently on a training event that we are all in the same storm, but we are all in very different boats. And I thought, if we look at Christmas, the storm that we're all in is actually, we're all sharing that. So we all have a fulfilment, we're all part of the same thing, regardless of who you are, where you are. We are part of that community, we all take part and we all are part of that. So what it has done is actually brought people closer together, regardless, because what it's done is actually made us all realise we're all part of something, and that's what's going on this year. So for us, as an organisation, we are really hoping to go back to the real meaning of Christmas, that warmth, the togetherness, the giving and receiving, reflecting on your year, what went well for you, what could go well in the future. And throughout all of this, I'm incredibly proud of the staff teams and all of the agencies have continued to provide services and to be able to be there for the client group that we serve. Because without you all and everything that you do, it would be a very lonely place. So I'd just like to leave you with this really, is that when we say, using the analogy that we're all in the same storm but all in very different boats, Christmas is Christmas for us all and we all take different parts in that. And if we could all just reflect on actually kindness this year is more important than ever, to actually share that kindness with each other, be kind to ourselves, and also to be kind to other people, and just be there for people that could really need, whether that's 5 minutes conversation, whether that's sitting down and having a cup of tea and finding out how somebody feels. Just try to give as well as to receive, and just remember to be kind to yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the annual treats of the Homeless Action Voucher Service is trying to work out what name this organisation is going to go by. They seem to change it. Every time I get used to it, they suddenly change it yet again. I think this year we're talking about Stop Domestic Abuse.
We're very lucky to have a comedian in charge. It's his annual joke. Thank you very much.
It's as good as a Christmas crack.
So for many of us, Christmas conjures up images of rubbish cracker jokes, too much alcohol and food, and in normal years a haze of Christmas parties. But for others, Christmas is the most feared time of the whole year. Domestic abuse doesn't stop for Christmas. As you would imagine, the combination of financial pressure, free-flowing alcohol, and being cooped up in close quarters exerts additional burden on relationships. In an abusive relationship, the pressure is multiplied. It can be the hardest time of year. Bombarded with images of the perfect nuclear family gathered around the gold baubles of a Christmas tree, it can be easy to forget that Christmas can be a time of coercion, punishment, and violence for many. Instead of being a time to be happy or be grateful, it becomes a time to be on edge. After all, the slightest deviation from perfection can quickly escalate. Victims may work harder than ever to make sure the abuser doesn't get upset. Victims and their children are hyper-vigilant as to whether the abuser is going to lose it and the violence will start. While Christmas has always been a difficult time for victims of domestic abuse, the coronavirus lockdown will only make things worse. Domestic abuse always increases during this holiday season as families and couples spend more time together, but the lockdown measures have led to increased incidences of abuse. And as couples become isolated from the outside world, it will only get worse. We're advised to stay home to save lives, but the daunting reality faced by many victims of domestic abuse is this Christmas, home is not safe. On a more positive note, for those victims and their children living in refuge this Christmas, this may be the first Christmas they have had without fear of violence. The voucher scheme reminds them that their local community is thinking of them this Christmas. This voucher means that they can choose what they get, and this voucher is a metaphor for their life, where they too now have choices, and they are no longer alone and in fear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. I wonder what Christmas means to you. What's the meaning of Christmas for you at this moment of time? We're going to hear some Christmassy music again from Brian Moles, our organist, just for a couple of minutes, and perhaps while you're listening to that, you may want to think about what Christmas means to you this year and what you can do to share some comfort and joy with those around you at this season. where do we find the meaning of Christmas? No one's yet mentioned it. I'm rather surprised that the meaning of Christmas is found in one very obvious place. The meaning of Christmas, of course, is found in the John Lewis advert. Other adverts are available, as are other stores. But the John Lewis advert is, of course, the one that always comes through. And this year they were exactly on message with us. The meaning of Christmas is to share the gift of love. In all sorts of different situations, in all sorts of homes, in all sorts of context, the advert takes us through how a simple sharing of the gift of love shares the true meaning of Christmas. And that's what Comfort and Joy has been about this year, has been about finding ways to encourage people across our city and communities to share the gift of love, to find time to think of others, to send a card to a neighbour. So local schools have been writing letters to people who live near them, who live in care homes or in sheltered accommodation. Other schools have been collecting food to make up hampers, some of which are beside the various charities behind me today. Others have been doing all sorts of things to reach out and to engage with those around them and to share that gift of love. But at the heart of the Comfort and Joy campaign has always been the Christmas voucher scheme. This year we always thought was going to be a challenge because major carol services wouldn't be taking place, collections wouldn't happen, people weren't gathering together. And if I'm honest, I wasn't convinced that we would get anywhere near our usual annual figure. But thanks to the support of so many different organisations, thanks to the support of the City Council, to the support of the Hive, to the support of BAE Systems, Southern Cooperatives, thanks to the support of a whole host of different businesses, we have managed this year to raise a figure already of £15,000. That's more than we've ever raised before, so can we offer a huge thank you to all those who support. I have to be honest that the bags behind me are rather light compared to our usual, because most people have generously been sending cheques and cash through the post, and will be sharing that amount of money with these agencies as well as the vouchers that they have straight after this service. But I'm just going to invite the Lord Mayor if he'd like to say a few words before we finish.
Thank you, Father Bob. Can I just say, when I started this year, it was nothing like I was imagined it was going to be, because clearly we've been through a journey, a very difficult journey. So people ask me straight away, so what's it been like for you? Well, I say, I don't know, I've never done this before. However, one thing I have discovered, and I'm really grateful for, is at the end of the day, I've discovered that we can all work together. And that's something that's really important, which is we've discovered our humanity. We're in a world which is fast moving, and sometimes we forget about looking out for each other. And I'm very lucky this term that that's a lot of what I've seen in terms of people looking out for each other. And I've done a lot of things with Father Bob this year, and we've developed a special bond going out there, and I'm grateful. And just as I'm grateful for all of you that have contributed, for all of those who have contributed, I just say thank you on behalf of the city, thank you on those people you've helped, and thank you for those strangers you've helped have a better Christmas and a better something to look forward to. Thank you very much.
And like two pillars.
It's fantastic to be here today, and thank you to Father Bob and St Mary's for organising this event safely and for your hard work this year arranging the appeal. It's been tremendous. I often believe that Portsmouth is a resilient city, and I think that we've been tested significantly this year. But what has really shone through is the inequalities that we see in society, the injustice that we see in our city. And I think the lesson that we've learnt this year is that Portsmouth people are strong people and they care for one another. So thank you ever so much for everyone that contributed so generously to this appeal. Thank you for the charities that continue to do their very best in very challenging circumstances. And as we rebuild this city fairer, more just and more compassionately, we need the support of the community to make that a success so that we rebuild our community much stronger. So thank you for the generosity of the people of Portsmouth, to BAE Systems and all organisations involved in this important appeal, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
I could just say ditto, but that wouldn't necessarily cover all the things I wanted to cover. Stephen's very eloquently addressed the need for community, and it has to be a priority for us over the next year or so as well. And COVID's not going to just stop. We're all going to have to keep working together across parties, across communities, in a really important way as we move into 2021. It's important that we don't remember what we have achieved this year. Because as much as it's had its challenges, we've seen the Hive really shine in terms of bringing the voluntary sector together to support the community. We've seen outstanding efforts from local businesses who've gone above and beyond to support the most vulnerable among us, whether it's been doing Meals on Wheels services or writing those cheques to donate to back up those charities who've suffered huge losses in their incomes this year. Just think of the money that wasn't raised for local charities in the Great South Run alone. It's going to be a mammoth task for us over the next couple of years to make sure that we're supporting the voluntary and community sector, the great work Father Bob and the Hive do, and all of the organisations across our city, to make sure that we as a City Council, you as a community, are all working together to protect those vulnerable people who are going to need our help, whether they've suffered a loss of income, whether the pandemic has inflicted mental difficulties on them that they're going to need to fight through. There's a whole host of different impacts that we're going to see, but we are stronger together. The Emerging City Vision talks about how strong Portsmouth's communities are and about how stronger. And that's the message that we need to take away. We've got Christmas before us, a time of coming together, a time for us all to put differences aside and remember that at the end of the day, we're all exactly the same as each other. We all have different needs, but if we support each other, we can make sure that together we are stronger. So thank you very much indeed, and a very Merry Christmas to you all.
Thank you for those three speakers. I want to end with another thanks. We've thanked all who donated, we thanked all who have been generous and supported us in all sorts of ways. But in one sense, all of that would not really have the impact that it will have if there wasn't a very particular group of people who we all need to thank, because often they're unseen, often they're unnoticed, but the work they do is invaluable. While we're all enjoying our Christmas bubbles, there will probably be some people who will not be able to do that, because they will be working through the season to care for those who need that support and those who are on the margins over the Christmas season. So perhaps, as well as remembering your neighbour, as well as remembering those around you, you might find some time to think about and to give thanks to this amazing group of people who are all sat behind you for all that they will do over the Christmas season. And that, I'm afraid, ends it. We haven't been able to challenge each other as to who can sing the best. We haven't been able to shake any jingle bells or rattle any things at all. We've just been able to reflect on the meaning of Christmas, but mostly to reflect on the generosity and the support given by people across our city and communities. We're going to do some photos. Brian will end with some music, and we thank you very much for sharing in this with us today.